Continue their series out in the Bay. The teams have split the first two games, with San Francisco taking game one, Brewers taking the last night's game. While the offense was the big story last night, put up 11 runs, the pitching of Jose Quintana continues to impress. He's now 3-0 on the year, has an ERA under 1. Manager Pat Murphy's been impressed with what the veteran lefty has given them.
I feel like I know this kid really, really well, and he's only, how many starts has he made for us? 3. I feel like he's made 30 for us, because it's just like he gives you that understanding of like, I know how to pitch, I know how to get out of this thing, I know how to navigate through a lineup. He does his research, he works with the catcher. He didn't have great stuff tonight by any means, but he did what he needed to do and made big pitches, big times. Yeah, he's special guy.
Freddie Peralta going to be on the mound for the Crew tonight. He's 2-1 with a 1.91 ERA. Giants will send Logan Webb. He's also 2-1 with a 2.40 ERA. First pitch is set for 8:45. Turning to the Bucks, they are back home after losing last night in Indy and finding themselves in an 0-2 hole. Milwaukee has come back from an 0-2 deficit twice in franchise history, most notably NBA Finals against Phoenix a few years ago. Game 3 coming up on Friday.
Rural Mutual Insurance, keeping Wisconsin strong.
When a company only does business in Wisconsin, that's Wisconsin Strong. Rural Mutual provides all lines of insurance, including commercial, farm, home, and auto. And your premiums stay right here to keep Wisconsin strong. Local agents, local underwriters, local claims adjusters.
Rural Mutual Insurance, keeping Wisconsin strong.
Well, the NFL draft in Green Bay now just 1 day away. The first round gets going tomorrow night. Packers own pick number 23. And the Badgers back on the field tomorrow morning for the final practice of spring. With this Wisconsin Sports Zone Network update, I'm Zach Heil, Print.
The game's going to go in flows. It's going to do that. They're going to make runs. Listen, they went up 15, but are we going to talk about our run? We made a run to get back in the game. A lot of unforced turnovers. I liked how we played tonight overall. Shot almost 51% and should have shot the ball better. Could have moved the ball even better. So I like where we're tracking.
This is where Wisconsin gathers to talk sports. Packers, Brewers, Badgers, Bucks. The Wisco Sports Show is on the air. Now, here's your host, Grant Bills.
I'm sorry, can I say something? And it's something that nobody's going to like. Doc is still really funny. Like, there's a lot of people that don't like Doc Rivers. In fact, most people don't like Doc Rivers, with the exception of NBA owners and some media people. Like, no common NBA fan likes Doc Rivers. But he is funny. Like, yeah, they jumped out to a big lead, but can we talk about the run that we made? It's like, well, yeah, we can. Not really the point, but we can talk about it. Like, it's very similar to his comment from a couple weeks ago, and he said this in the past too. It's like, well, yeah, people drag me for blowing 3-1 leads as a coach in the NBA playoffs, but like, why do I never get credit for building those 3-1 leads? It's like, I think I said this early on in this season. I think within the first month or two of this Bucs season, I said, look, Doc is not a very good coach. I'm not going to let it get to me. Like, I'm not going to be the sports radio guy who crashes out and goes on an angry rant and says all the things about Doc Rivers that we've known for like 5 years. I'm just going to let this drip like water off my back, because I don't think this team is a coach away from winning a title anyways. They might be a coach away from winning this Indiana series, but they're not a coach away from winning a title. So yeah, he stinks, and there's some things that the Bucs should be doing differently and some levers to pull and some buttons to push that Doc is not pulling or pushing, but I'm not going to crash out over this. I am going to laugh a little bit at Doc, because like, I'm sorry, but that is objectively, like, that is a funny comment. Like, what are we doing if we can't laugh? You laugh to keep from crying. You know what I mean?
The game's going to go in flows. It's going to do that. They're going to make runs. Listen, they went up 15, but are we going to talk about our run? We made a run to get back in the game.
Are we going to talk about our run? Like, it doesn't bring me joy to point out that Doc Rivers is funny and to laugh at Doc. But it's better than the alternative, which is melting down over him not being a very good coach. It's like Trump. Like, a lot of people don't like Trump, as with most politicians. I think there should be times where, like, I don't really like that thing that person said or did, but every once in a while, okay, but I like that thing. Like, if we can judge politicians objectively, which no one can, myself included at times, but like, I'll watch clips of Donald Trump and be like, damn it, why is he so funny? Like Doc is the same way. Like they made their runs, but what about
We're
us?
going to talk about our run. We made a run to get back in the game.
Like I'm sorry. That's funny. And I know Bucks fans were bummed out. They're down 0-2, and that's where we're going to start today. This is the Wisco Sports Show. My name is Grant Bills. I know we're bummed, but like we got to find humor when we can. And I'm sorry, but that's funny. Like I have to laugh a little bit to make it through this playoff series. Thank you for tuning in. 2 guests tonight, 2 expert, high-level guests at the top of their respective beats or their respective fields of coverage. Ty Windisch is going to be back. Locked on, or not Locked On Bucks, excuse me. Justin Garcia is Locked On Bucks, and we do have him from time to time as well. But the Eurostep podcast, and we had him on last week to preview the series and to talk about their conversation with Marcus Johnson a little bit. And I hope that you went and listened to that podcast. It was great. And when we got off the horn, he said, I mean, I'll come on next week. I'm like, brilliant. Why not? Yeah, come on Wednesday. And we could talk about game 2. So Ty Windisch going to be here in about a half hour. And then Jesse Temple going to make his weekly visit. That'll be a nice palate cleanser at the very end of the show around 5:35, 5:40. Justin will stop by. Plenty of time for your phone calls, especially if you have impassioned reaction to the Bucks game. That's what makes sports talk radio great, is angry fans who are emotional and reacting unreasonably. And I'll be plenty unreasonable tonight. That's how sports radio should be. But I'll plenty of time to take your calls as well at 608-321-1670. And you can comment on the live stream as well, YouTube and Facebook. Just look up the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills. Would appreciate if you subscribe to the YouTube page, like the Facebook page, just little things. And I don't take a lot of effort from you, but help me in the show. And of course, the show streams on Twitter, and you can tweet me during the show or anytime at Wisco Grant as well. I got so frustrated listening on my drive home last night because the show ended at 6. The game started at like 6:05. I listened to most of the first quarter and a little bit into the second quarter on the drive home. And I got so frustrated. Not necessarily because they were losing, although obviously that's a big part of it. Like I would enjoy them winning more. I wouldn't be as frustrated if they were winning. But I'm especially frustrated, and I really felt it last night because it feels like we're doing the same exact thing now for like the second or third straight year, right? And I got to listen to Bucks fans, of which I am one. So I'm not casting aspersions at Bucks fans, but it would be the same like with the Packers, the Badgers, or any other fan base, right? There's certain schools of thought or certain, cries from a fan base that just get on the nerves of people in that same fan base. Like, I got to listen to Bucks fans. It's like, well, the series doesn't start until the home game or the home team loses a game. It's like, okay, yeah, but I guess like I'm cursed in that I was born with eyeballs and they're connected to my brain. And I watch this team and it's like, yeah, they haven't played at home yet, but look at them. Just watch them. You know what I mean? So I hate, the series doesn't start until the home team loses a game, or like, you got to lose twice to win in 6. It's like, okay, Bucks fans, you want a juice box? You want a little sleeve of Ritz crackers, you children? Like, I like Bucks in 6 as a war cry. The same way, hey, go Pack, go. See a Packer fan on the street, on Wisconsin. Bucks in 6. It's not a, hey, we just got our ass beaten 2 games in a row, embarrassed on the road. You got to lose twice to win in 6. God, when I elbow you in the mouth. I am tired of concocting comeback scenarios in my head that I don't remotely believe in. You know what I mean? Like in 2021, when they fell down 0-2 to the Nets, I remember that run of shows very well, and a lot of the different things that we've talked about or that we talked about during that run. And one of the things was like, look, if they can just get on the board against the Nets with the injuries they were dealing with, right? It's not that they're right back in it, but I felt there was a path with that team. I felt that there has been a path with this team in the past, even when they're down in a series. I don't remotely feel that way right now. So while they have not yet played a home game, and you got to lose twice to win in 6, like I'm tired of feeling like I need to concoct scenarios in my head in which the Bucks come back and win this thing that I don't believe in. I don't believe in those scenarios. Now, if they play on Friday night, they play Friday, right? 2 days off. They play Friday and they come out and they beat the Pacers to a pulp and they got some moxie and they got some swagger. Okay, well then we'll reevaluate, but it's a daily talk show and we're on the air right now. I see this team drawing dead through 2 games in the series. And I don't care if they've played on the road or at home so far. I don't care. Oh, and by the way, if the Bucks want to win the series, they're at some point going to have to win on the road. And Bucks fans, do you think that they're going to defend home court at every opportunity? They're going to have to win 2 in a row now, and then they're going to have to win game 5 and steal one on the road. Like, I'm not going to sit here and be like, well, if they just do this, and if they, Doc makes this adjustment, like, I don't buy into that. Don't make me do it. That's what we've spent the last 3 years doing, and I don't want to do it anymore. It's also predictable, right? Like I expressed skepticism on the show last night, and I could go back and pull the audio, but I don't remember when I said this, and just take my word for it. I wouldn't lie about something like this because I don't care. I don't really care about being right that much. But I said on last night's show, when the starting lineup came out, I was like, oh, okay, so they'll fall behind, 15-4, whatever. They'll take a timeout, and then they'll put the right players in, and they might actually be able to make some hay. And that's exactly what happened. They fell behind 16-8. They took a timeout, and we're like, well, here we go for the second night in a row. And I'm listening to Dave Kane as I drive home, and he's like, okay, like here we go for the second straight game. You know what I mean? And look, when it comes to complaining about the starting lineup, it's not as simple as we'll just start the bench guys, because bench plus minus can be very misleading because those bench guys are playing against the other team's bench, and there can be rotational factors and situational and matchup factors. It's not as simple as, well, if the starters stink, just replace the starters. Like, it's more complicated than that. And I'm certainly not asking the Bucks to start 5 different players, but like maybe change the combination a little bit next to Giannis and Dame. You might have seen this tweet today. I'll throw it up on the simulcast for those who are watching. Hardwood Paroxysm, which is a name on Twitter that I hate because I'm not really sure how I'm supposed to pronounce that. It's Matt Moore, who used to be at the Action Network. I don't know. His Jokic stuff got so annoying, I had to follow him or unfollow him. But this is a good stat. Lopez, Giannis, Prince, Kuzma, that lineup of 4 guys, given any fifth starter next to him, are minus 23. Minus 23. That is bad, right? That is poor. Without that 4-player combo on the floor, the Bucks actually in this series are only minus 4, which is significantly better. And if the Bucks can hang around and hang around at sea level, you saw last night they got the closers to get it done between Dame and Giannis. Like, they have the superstars that can rise above in those moments, but if they're down 15 with 2 minutes to go, that doesn't matter. Okay? So can we maybe change up this Lopez, Giannis, Prince, Kuzma? I feel like I've had enough Taurean Prince. I've certainly had enough Kyle Kuzma. Bobby Portis was great last night. And apparently this team needs energy and juice in a do-or-die playoff game. You wouldn't think that would be necessary. You'd think that would just be natural, but I guess it's not. So Portis helps a lot in that regard. But he also played really well last night and gave them some much-needed offense outside of just Giannis and a little bit of Dame, who made a comeback last night. I like Sims in his little role. I like AJ Green a lot. He only played 12 minutes. Seems like a miss to me, but what do I know? I'm just an idiot on the radio. I remain confused and annoyed by Kyle Kuzma and Kevin Porter Jr. Good Grant Bill's rule of thumb, a good Wisco Sports Show rule of thumb. I like adults, okay? Give me grown, mature players with a half-decent brain. Doesn't mean they need to be veterans, right? A rookie can be an adult, just like a veteran can be a child, right? J.R. Smith was a veteran in 2016, and he forgot the score in the waning seconds of an NBA Finals game. So it's not age. It's, are you an idiot? Are you composed? Are you dialed in? Are you focused, please, in the closing minutes of a playoff game? I don't get the Kuzma thing. I guess I kind of get the Kevin Porter Jr. thing because sometimes you need offense off the bench. Kevin Porter scored 9 last night. It felt like he scored, but how did he only score 9? It felt like he actually went on a nice little run. He probably gave up 19 and then gave away some points in a possession because he wanted to play footsie with Thomas Bryant. I'm like, okay, great. Yeah, in a playoff game, Giannis and Dame are on the bench, and I got to watch this absolute knob who's flirted with being kicked out of the league because he's such a bozo in his personal life. Like, I got to watch him grab Thomas Bryant by the foot and just stir something up when nothing needs to be stirred up. I don't mind a little chippiness. I don't mind a little physicality. I don't want stupidity. I don't want idiocy. Give me adults. I want adults. And what's really annoying is we finally got rid of Malik Beasley, whose head is filled with sand in important NBA possession moments in the closing minutes. We finally got rid of that guy. And now I got to watch Kyle Kuzma when their season is on the line and they need a stop as badly as they've ever needed a stop in the entire season up to this point. And he loses his man and gives up a wide open 3 because he's staring into the floodlights, because he can't dial in. He can't focus because he's not an adult. Give me adults. Give me AJ Green in that spot. Give me Gary Trent Jr. Give me anyone else. Because it's not like the offensive payoff is there for Kyle Kuzma. He can't hit anything, and he can't really finish at the rim. So if you're not scoring and you're not giving me anything offensively, and you can't pull your head out of the sand, on defense. Where'd my guy go? Oh, the game's over. Oh, that was a wide open three. How'd that happen? Because can you dial it in a little bit? Just a bit. So look, this team has real limitations, and it's clear when they're matched up man-to-man against the Pacers, who are younger and stronger and faster and probably hungrier and certainly better coached. But they're not this disadvantaged against the Pacers. They're not that much worse than the Pacers, right? It's close enough to where having Giannis and now Damian Lillard should actually be able to win you a game. But Kyle Kuzma, who's out there missing shots at the rim and from behind the three-point line, just completely losing his man, a la Malik Beasley, who I was so thrilled to get rid of because it shouldn't be hard. And this is why a lot of people get frustrated with the NBA. It's not just the NBA, but it seems to come out in the NBA more than it does the other leagues. It shouldn't be hard in the final 2 minutes of a playoff game for you to just focus a bit, just for 2 minutes, and keep track of your man, right? If you're playing defense, one-on-one, and a brilliant player puts a great move on you and gets by you to score, you tip your cap because these are the best basketball players in the world, and sometimes there's nothing you can do against Giannis or Jokic or LeBron or Luka. Like, sometimes there's just nothing you can do. But when you lose Andrew Nembhard because you're spun around and you're not focused on your assignment, like, get out of my face. Please get out of my face. So I don't understand why I have to watch Kyle Kuzma instead of AJ Green or Gary Trent Jr., who are both better focused. They're both better defenders, and they can actually hit a shot. Or I've seen them hit shots, especially AJ Green. Like, good God. So, and I guess that's a Doc problem. It's kind of a roster problem because they don't have great options. But, like, Doc, man, like, the worst lineup that the Bucks have thrown out there, and again, this is statistically sound. This is an eyeball test. I realize I don't know what I'm talking about, but Lopez, Giannis, Prince, and Kuzma are combined 23. And I know Lopez wasn't out there to finish the game, but Kuzma was. You know, Taurean Prince is playing minutes down the stretch. It's like, what am I watching? I at least want to go down swinging with the players who I believe give me the best chance to win. Or, again, at the very, very, very least, players who can dial in just a bit. Like, just a little. Give me a little focus. Eyes up here, boys. Eyes up here. Just, all right, eyes, mouths closed, eyes open. Where's your man on defense? Can you just focus? Can you give me 60 seconds here where you don't get lost staring up into the lights of the seal while your man drains a wide open three to seal the game? Like, it's just frustrating because if the Bucks were losing because they weren't as athletic and they weren't as gifted and they weren't as deep, fine. And they're going to lose games for that reason. We've seen it all year, but that's not why they lost last night's game. Especially when they mounted that comeback and they were right there. They lost it because a guy like Kyle Kuzma, who's a veteran, like, I don't know where my guy went. Where is, oh, there he is. Okay, he just hit a shot. The game's over. Just, God. Then that's a guy that I don't need out on the floor. And if AJ Green gets blown by because Tyrese Halliburton crosses him up, so be it. I'll sleep like a baby at night because the Bucks don't have any better options. They don't have Drew Holiday to stick on Tyrese Halliburton. And by the way, even if they had Drew Holiday, like, I don't know if he's checking anyone at this age anyways. It's just an example, probably a bad one. Give me a team of adults, please. I want to lose for honest to goodness basketball reasons, not because you forgot to take whatever pill that you need to help you focus in the waning minutes of a playoff game. Please dial it in a bit. All right, we'll come back just a couple minutes. If you have any thoughts on this, I'll take your calls on the Bucks, and then Ty Windisch is going to join us from the Eurostep podcast at 4:35. So the number 608-321-1670 to you next.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
The game's going to go in flows. It's going to do that. They're going to make runs. You know, listen, they went up 15, but are we going to talk about our run? We made a run to get back in the game. So there's runs in the game. That's what's going to happen. But when we got to get a stop, we did not get a stop. And to me, over anything else right now, we got to be able to get a stop on a call. Like, we need a stop. We not only didn't get a stop, we gave up a 3. And those are the plays to me that are really breaking us.
That's Doc Rivers, and the first part of that comment, and I played it to begin the show, is pretty funny. He's like, well, yeah, they got off to a run to start the game, but are we going to talk about our runs? A lesser radio host, or maybe a more childish version of myself, would write a segment about why that's ridiculous. And Doc Rivers doesn't deserve this head coaching job. He didn't deserve the last head coaching job. And all he's done is blown leads. And then I'd pull out my notes and I'd say, in 2012, he blew this lead. And in 2014, he did this. And this guy continues to make excuses and avoid responsibility. And we know all that. None of that is new. I'm not going to do that segment. A lesser radio host might. But big part of sports radio is just stating the obvious and then being performative and getting angry about it. And I don't have the energy to get angry about Doc Rivers. We knew exactly who he was when they hired him. We knew this wasn't ideal from the start. And I'm trying to find humor in some of the things that he says. And I'm sorry, I'm going to play it again. That comment is just so fair. Are we going to talk about the runs that we made? It's a game of runs. They made their runs, but what about us? That's just so good.
They went up 15, but are we going to talk about our run? We made a run to get back in the game. So there's runs in the game. That's what's going to happen.
So there's runs in the game. The second half of that comment is much more instructive for actual productive basketball conversations. So let's play that one more time, because this is, he's hitting the nail on the head.
But when we got to get a stop, we did not get a stop. And to me, over anything else right now, we got to be able to get a stop on a call. We need a stop. We not only didn't get a stop, we gave up a 3. And those are the plays to me that are really breaking us.
So the play-by-play, let me pull up the fourth quarter here. How much time was left? Because the Bucks had started to do the thing that they need to do to actually steal one of these games, win one of these games. The Bucks are not good enough, at least on the road, I think, to go into Indy and completely run away with a game. They might be able to do it in one of these home games. And part of that is human nature, because the Pacers are up 2-0, and it's hard to play desperate when you're up 2-0. At least it should be, in theory, harder to play more desperately up 2-0 than the team that's down 0-2. So there might just be a little bit of relaxation from the Pacers, and that might be just enough with the Bucks' energy at home. Maybe they can run away with a game at home. But the Bucks were not good enough, especially without Dame in game 1, and especially without like a full healthy version of Dame in game 2, to run away with a game. The best recipe they had was to keep it as close as possible and then hope your superstars can take over down the stretch. And we were in the midst of it. We were right there. It was happening. Bobby Portis made a 3 with 3:27 left, and the Bucks were down 5. And then Dame hit one from the logo, one of those special Damian Lillard superstar level shots. That's part of the reason that you brought Dame in, is for moments like that. Dame takes it from 110, 115 to 113, 115. Now everyone in the building is tight. The Pacers are we going to blow this? There's some nervous energy, and the game is ripe for Giannis and Dame to be the superstars that they are and to win you a game, right? That's the recipe. And it was right there for the taking. But with 2 minutes left, Kyle Kuzma is waltzing around on defense, losing track of his man, looking at chicks in the crowd, although I believe he's engaged or married to Winnie Harlow, which is good for Kuz. I don't know what he was doing. Was he looking up into the rafters? Oh, look at the scaffolding up there. Or doing the thing that we all did in church growing up or in large group settings when we're just sitting there. It's like, all right, if that light stanchion fell, it would fall on those. How many people do you think it would kill? Like, would you die if that fell on you? You ever did do that in church or like in a school assembly when you're just sitting there bored out of your skull and you're looking up into the rafters of the gym and you're like, okay, if that catwalk right there came loose, or if that Jumbotron came loose and it fell, like, do you think it's squat? Do you think it kills that person instant? Like, or does it maim them really bad? Like, maybe he was doing that. I don't know. He wasn't watching Pascal Siakam, and he gives up a wide open 3-pointer, and then the Pacers pull, I guess, away, and they're leading by 5, and that was kind of that. It's like you had one possession to continue the avalanche, to continue to put the pressure on Indy, and to continue to give Dame and Giannis the chance that, quite frankly, I think they deserve. I know that that's kind of fan language, and I know that's maybe not rational sports language, but Giannis and Dame deserved a chance to try to steal that one last night, and I think they were perfectly capable of doing so. Giannis, the ball was flying around. He's finding the open man. He was pulling down offensive rebounds like it was 2021, buying extra possessions, buying buckets at the rim with putback, and then Dame hits that shot from the logo, and you're like, that's the type of shot you dream of in a playoff game when you trade for Damian Lillard and when you acquire Damian Lillard. And then Kyle Kuzma, because his head is filled with pudding, is like, where'd my guy go? God. And it would be one thing if Kuz was filling it up on offense, but he hasn't been. And again, I'll reiterate what I said in the opening segment. It's one thing if the Bucks lose games because they're just not athletic enough, and they're too old, and they're too slow, and they're not deep enough, and they don't have enough guys. Fine. That's not why they lost last night. That's a part of the reason why it's going to be challenging to win these games. Sure. But the lack of situational execution from a veteran-laden team, and Kyle Kuzma's won a title. He's played in more finals games, or as many finals games as anybody out there, more than anybody on the Pacers, unless I'm forgetting someone. Although Siakam, I guess, in 19, I don't know how much he played in 19. I feel like a good amount. He wasn't the featured player like he is now. I could be misremembering with Siakam. Is there anyone else on the Pacers? But like Kyle Kuzma has as much NBA Finals and NBA playoff experience as anybody out there. And he's losing his man. It's like, oh, God. Like, Giannis deserves better. Dame deserves better. And we can talk a little bit more about that concept. Maybe that's too personal, because does anyone really deserve anything? Is that really the way that the world works, especially in professional sports? Probably not. But it's just so frustrating. It's like your season's on the line and you have a brain fart. It's one thing if a really good player makes a move and beats you. Kyle Kuzma's just, I don't know what he's doing. He's just futzing around, staring at the lights, just like Malik Beasley was last year, and it's frustrating. If my team's going to get beat, I want them to be at least a healthy, competitive version of themselves. And for like 3 years now, we have fully yet to get that. It's really, really annoying. Ty Windisch going to join us next, the Eurostep podcast. So if you have any thoughts on the Bucks, I will take your calls. It'll have to be in a little bit. We'll also talk draft, and we'll also react to the Brewer game last night, because that was a really fun game. I'm glad I stayed up for at least most of it. I stayed up for Yelich's grand slam, and then Bauer's home run. And then I'm like, all right, even Payams can't blow this one. They were up by like 10 at one point. So I figured it was good, 10 or 11 or whatever it was. So I went to bed. We'll talk about that as well. A lot more of the Wisco Sports Show yet to come. Ty Windisch, Eurostep Podcast, going to join us next.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 5 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 4 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
They've been the aggressor, we haven't. You know, we keep spotting them 10-point leads at least. The beginning of the third, and that's pretty much the game. You know, we've seen when it comes down to it, you know, we're capable of playing with them. End of the game, you know, we can do what we do, and we have a chance. But it's tough when we start the game like that, when we start the half like that, and obviously we got to change that.
That's Brooke Lopez. I agree. I think that's a good summary of how last night went. The Bucks have lots of problems. Some of them fixable, some of them not. That one seems like it could be fixable, should be fixable. We'll see. Maybe being at home, maybe that'll be the difference. He joined us last week. Excellent Bucks analyst. And if you haven't listened to the Eurostep podcast, then you are making a mistake. It's Ty Windisch, who was with us last week, now here to react to game 2. Ty, how do they fix the slow starts? Because I don't know that they're going to be able to win a game being in a 15-point hole, like that's one thing, but then you also let the Pacers play confidently. You let them get out and run. And I think that's maybe even the more damning part of these slow starts.
Yeah, I mean, the team that everyone calls the front-running team, if you let them run in front of you, they are going to be very much in their element. And I think the worst the Pacers have looked in both games was the fourth quarters where the Bucks started to claw back, as we've seen them do so many times. And Indy let them get back in both games. I mean, game 1, I don't think people will look back and think close game, but again, had opportunities to cut it to 9-6, and Bucks missed some shots, but Indy clammed up, right? Like, I think you got to make that team uncomfortable. So I agree with you. I think they just have to change the starting lineup. It sounds like Doc Rivers now flirting with this idea after the last night's game, at least according to quote shared from Eric Name of The Athletic, saying that group's not working. We have to figure it out. Agreed. I think most of us had flagged that group as an issue going into the series, and now the Bucks are down 0-2. It's not too late. You haven't lost a game at home yet. Series doesn't start until the road team wins one. So hopefully this series doesn't start until next week. But yeah, I think that group needs to change. I just don't think they're going to be able to hang with Indiana.
Give me your Doc Rivers take at this moment in time, because I don't think he is the idiot and awful coach that most people would make him out to be. I think for the most part, he's probably fine. But the problem is this team is disadvantaged in just about every playoff matchup they're going to have. Like, this is the team that needs a little extra juice or a slight disadvantage from a coach, and Doc's not providing that. So give me your Doc Rivers take or bit of analysis at this time.
Yeah, he's not stupid. I mean, I think that one thing with a lot of these coaches that get the bad raps is the word I would use is stubborn. And I think a lot of cachet and some veterans on the team, Brooke Lopez, Taurean Prince, Kyle Kuzma, and this idea that the Bucks have some advantage of their big lineup with Prince at the 2 and everything else, despite the fact that, and it's kind of a really interesting counterfactual, because Doc also loves the 3-guard bench group with Giannis that has played extremely well and is nothing like that starting group and continues to play well. And, the Bobby minutes, I believe, are a slight positive so far in the series. And that's kind of, again, you're not as big, but you're stretchier. There's the space for Giannis. You're just more mobile. And I think he's just stuck to that group for too long. And now there's clearly an idea behind it. Again, like there's a vision. I just don't think it's the right vision. But I think in addition to that, more than just lineups, like you look at the fourth quarter when it looked like the Bucks were going to steal that game. When Dame hit that 3, Big Bob hit that 3 on the offensive board, I really thought, they're going to steal this and we're all going to look so stupid for being panicked, because suddenly after 40 minutes of disaster, you've tied it up and taken back home court. They obviously didn't. My bigger concern is, This doesn't feel like a well-coached defensive team. They just get lost. I mean, I'm sure you've seen the clip today. Dame is trying to get on to Neesmith with Turner and Siakam on one side of the floor, and nobody goes with Pascal Siakam, Indiana's all-star, and he shoots a wide open three that kind of puts the Bucks away. Those are the kind of plays that really drive me crazy. Not totally on Doc, but this is a team all year that it feels like loses shooters, and their defensive acumen is just not sharp enough.
Well, and that play that you're describing, the Siakam three, is so frustrating. And I said this in the opening segment of the show because it felt like we were having the moment that you'd hope for when your recipe for winning in the playoffs is we have Dame and Giannis. Like that shot that Dame hit, it's like that's why you get Dame, is so you can steal a game that you have no business winning. And then on the other end, Kyle Kuzma just gets completely lost on the biggest possession of the season. To me, that's a Kuzma issue. And last year this was true with Malik Beasley too. There are some players who just get lost. Like some players aren't as dialed in, and that's how Kuzma reads to me. Do you think that's, to your point, or talk more about what you were just saying? Is that a player? Is that a focus issue, a dialed in issue, or is that a Doc issue from the sideline?
I think it's a combination. I wouldn't even specifically say that's 100% Kuzma's fault. There's a lot of these plays where I think it's impossible for us to fully know what the game plan is. If a guy just wanders away, then yeah, it's his fault. But that one, there was clearly a bit of confusion between the three players, Kuzma, Lillard, and Portis, on who was going to scram to who. So all three of them knew Dame was going to go to Neesmith because the other two guys are big. And they both then Portis and Kuzma drift toward Turner, who was in the post. Now, I've gone back and forth on this. I've probably watched the play 10 times throughout the day. Like, not all at once either. I get too frustrated. I put it away. I see it again. I look again. Yeah. Get some fresh air. Thankfully, it's warm. At least we've got that to look forward to. But Portis starts on Turner, so I think that's valid to think he would stay there. But also, they both kind of just walk toward him at the same time, which you just hope one of them would realize a little bit before the pass goes. But again, it feels like the team doesn't communicate enough. And that, to me, is not just, Kuzma messed up. That's like, let's talk through this read. Let's make sure we're on the same page. Let's have awareness around us. And that's the kind of thing where it just feels like it's not just Kuzma. I mean, AJ Green gave up a three, I think, in the fourth as well, where he's just parked like on the free throw line while his player isn't fully in the corner and he gets an open three out of it. Why is that is that AJ Green or is that the defense? When it happens this often with this many different players, I have trouble saying, oh, it's that guy is the issue. It just feels like the defense is not, cohesive enough.
Ty Windisch is here, the Eurostep podcast. Let's talk about Andrew Nembhard, because I saw a lot of Bucks fans tweeting last night, and this seems like a nightly occurrence during the postseason, where it's like, why are these guys hitting all these threes? Why have they raised their level? Like, it's bad luck. I'm to the point now where I've seen it happen so many times where it can't be luck, right? Like, at some point, it just seems like the opponent shooters, the 3-and-D guys or the role players, just are always seemingly without fail better than the 3-and-D guys on the Bucks, because it can't just be luck at this point, right?
Yeah, it's not just luck. I think a lot of it is this team feeds into an even worse version of what the Bud Bucks suffered from. And that was the other team that really had it this bad. I mean, last year, no Giannis, they just couldn't match up with Indiana at all, clearly, and they were overmatched on that end. I think Nembhard's a playoff riser. I think that guy shot 29% from three this past regular season, was amazing last playoffs, got himself a new contract, not just against the Bucks either. And he's nails, I'll compare him. I saw Greg here in the YouTube chat saying the random 24 jersey. I'll compare him to Pat Connaughton, who a regular season, you're like, ho hum, whatever, it's fine. He had some nails moments where he just showed up and hit some huge shots, especially against Brooklyn, which is why his jersey should be in the rafters, which is why this 24 is up. So anyway, but I think the Bucks feed into shooters because the other teams get to play with so much energy, because the Bucks have not brought energy to start either of these games. And Indiana, again, like if you want to say front runner, if that's more of a derogatory, I mean, which it is, we don't like those guys. But they're a young team and they feed off energy. And if you let them get running, you're making turnovers, you're not scoring, you're not getting back after you miss at the rim, and they're getting these wide open looks. It feeds upon itself, especially in their building. And they're great when they play in their building, Gainbridge Fieldhouse. And I think Nembhard is a perfect kind of player to feed into that. I think In the past, the Bucks have kind of tempted disaster by almost begging guys to shoot, which can backfire. The Grant Williams game 7, Boston 22, of course. There's been other examples of that as well. This team, it just feels like the Bucks are playing into what they want to do in terms of running and getting those looks right away and not getting back to cover them. When the Bucks do cover them and make them play in the half court, Indiana hasn't looked great when the Bucks manage to stick with their assignments. But any little slip up in either the half court discipline or getting back, Indy just feasts on that, and that's what they do.
Yeah, when they're capable of running a set defensively, they actually hold their own. When they lose guys and give up wide open layups or just, fail to get back even off made baskets, it hasn't gone well for them. And I think the paint numbers are misleading, and it was pretty close for points in the paint last night. I can't remember what it was for in game 1, but I remember Doc Rivers talking about it after the game. It's not like the Bucks are getting backed down and babied in the paint, which maybe Doc's fascination with the bigger lineup. Well, we need an advantage to be big. We need to dominate the paint. But the Pacers aren't babying the Bucks in the paint. They're getting out and running, and they're getting these wide open layups, which are paint shots, but they're not paint shots the way that you would typically think of paint shots or paint points, right?
Yeah, I think so. And there's some too. I mean, what they're doing now with the starting 5 is, you can't, they learned quickly in game 1. We cannot play Brook in drop against Miles Turner. So if he goes under the screen and waits around the rim, Turner will bomb away. And actually, this was intriguing because Turner wasn't great against the Bucks in the regular season, but he just bricked all of his wide open threes, which is a shot where he shot over 40% on those in total for the year. And he was a lot closer to that 40%, even higher than that in game 1. So the Bucks quickly realized, okay, we can't just give him that shot. He's not just going to magically miss those shots, which I think a lot of people could have told you that, but they wanted to find out. They did. And then now they're trying to switch. So, okay, we'll switch everything. That is getting Lopez on Halliburton, which is also leading to paint points because, newsflash, Brook Lopez cannot guard Tyrese Halliburton one-on-one in the perimeter. I mean, the step through fake that Tyrese had where he kind of faked in the middle like a hook and then stepped through and got to the rim. That's a paint point where your center's in the paint, but it's an issue. It's a mismatch. You don't want Brook Lopez trying to contain an all-star level point guard there. It just feels like they don't have any other options. They're doing a little bit of zone too, which the zone has worked pretty well the whole series. I know they gave up a 3 to start the second half, but I think putting Brook in zone is probably the most sustainable way to use him. It's just not a good series for him as a matchup. And I think as long as they continue to try and drop or switch him and have him cover out at the arc, there's going to be openings in the paint.
What's the biggest thing the Bucks need to do differently on Friday night?
I think a different starting lineup. I would start Bobby Portis, who I just think has been sensational in this series. Again, he's had not a perfect defensive acumen in the series. There's been some blown up switches that are affecting almost everyone on the team, I would say. But I think you look at him in man, he probably has some of their best reps on Siakam, just moving the feet. He knows to get physical enough. He's kind of playing a Seahawks defense where it's like, you got to call it, and the refs are not calling as much around the league right now, even more than usual in the playoffs. Bob, it feels like, is recognizing that as much as any player I've watched. And offensively, he's given them a huge lift, and he's just mobile. You can do more with him. I think he's a fine switch defender. I think when they tried to drop him in years past, that's not his game. He wasn't well versed at it. He can switch, though. Just tell him, hey, get your man, stay in front of your man. He does okay. So I would lean into that. I would also consider starting another shooter. Whether it's Green or Trent. I just think you need some space.
In place of whom?
I honestly pick one of Kuzma Prince, man. I don't even feel strongly about it. I just think, you need a guard and you don't need another 4. Right? And especially with Portis coming in, I don't want the starting 5 to be Dame and the 4-4s. I said on our show that sounds like a 30s doo-wop group or something. That's not the starting lineup. Let's get some floor balance here, please.
So I like the idea. Well, first of all, I'll take Trent or Green instead of Kuzma. I don't even really care which one. I just trust those two to be more dialed in defensively. And Kuzma's not giving you any offense anyways. What is let me just ask this question. This is what I should have said first. What is Kyle Kuzma giving them? What is he providing to the Bucks?
So he found something in game 2, rim pressure. And that is what they need from him the most. And he did a good job in the third quarter of saying, you know what? The thing about this Pacers team, they're fast because they're relatively small. I'm just going to start going to the rim and seeing if they can stop me. And obviously, the embarrassing sequence to start the game when the Bucks got him to the rim twice and drew up plays and just couldn't finish. Credit to him. Honestly, he came out in the third quarter, had an 8-point quarter, and really proved like, no, I can play in this series. I don't have the yips, right? Like, there's utility here, and that is valuable. They need more guys who do that, who get to the rim, who can punish Indiana's lack of size. But I don't think that he has to start to do that. And I think it's harder for him to do that with the starting group when you're out there with Giannis, who, of course, already there's going to be more paint presence. And I think teams are just not as worried about, I can say Indiana specifically now that we're in a series, it's just not that worried about Lopez. Again, it's like, okay, Dame and Giannis are on the court. If Brook is going to bomb away from 30 feet, unless he hits a couple in a row, we're not that concerned, man. Like, that's better than Giannis, who's scoring 30 points on 66% from the field every game.
And even if Brook hits a couple threes, it's like, okay, well, there you go. Like, you had your little run of possessions. Like,
yeah,
Brook is not going to be one to take 12 threes over the course of a game. You know what I mean? Where like
right.
a boundary player could actually get unconscious and force an adjustment. Even if he starts hitting, I don't think the Bucks are going to force the Pacers to adjust. I said I wasn't going to do this. I said I wasn't going to concoct some scenario in which the Bucks come back and win this because I wasn't sure that I believe it. But as the show now has progressed and I've calmed down, if they come out and they bludgeon the Pacers by 20 on Friday night, like, I'll have a little bit of a feeling of game on. All right. Like, I've seen it now. I have proof of concept, at least in one game. Is that unfair?
No, I mean, again, like the series is still live. I think the playoffs now, and I feel like the socials and everything make everything feel worse generally, not just sports, everything.
Correct.
But if we come out of Friday, and I'm not saying we will, I'm not sitting here and saying like they're for sure winning the series. We got them right where we want them. Obviously, it's been rough, but if to your scenario, let's say they make a couple changes, the lineups make more sense, they handle business and have a sound wire to wire ish win in game 3, then it's like, all right, we do one more at home. It kind of pressures back on Indy to a certain extent of like, oh, now if we slip up in game 5, Bucks and 6 is on the table. And obviously they're cognizant. They don't want that to, they know that's a rally cry for Milwaukee and for the Bucks. So no, it's not over. Based on the standings right now, the score of the games, the individual scores and the 2-0, it's just like, can you get a better product that's suited to play with Indiana? I think it's in there. I think they have the players, even though some of the bench guys have been disappointing. It's a big moment for some of these guys. Some of the times their first series, it's a lot to do. It's hard to step up. But Portis has been so good. Obviously, we knew what Giannis was going to do. Sometimes I've caught myself like, oh, is he doing as much? Then you're like, okay, 36, 15, and 7. Yeah, he's doing it. I think Dame could knock some rust off. That's going to be big. Hopefully you get those role players at home playing a little better. There's a chance here, but they need to have a better approach. I just don't think you can have Brook, Kuzma, Prince, Giannis, and Dame starting again. That group just does not feel like it can compete at the defensive end and in transition.
Well, it doesn't feel like it, and the statistics also bear it out very cleanly. Like we can use the eye test and the stats as well. Not even analytics. So you don't need to dig that deep. Just look at the very basic stats, ESPN.com, NBA.com. Ty, I appreciate it. Have a great rest of the week. Enjoy the draft. And if we talk again at some point, and I hope that we do before too long, hopefully it's about a series that became a series and not like, okay, are the Bucks going to have to trade Giannis or something like that?
Yeah, let's plan on the first one. Let's say, hey, 2-2. Let's really dive in. Let's hope we can have that conversation soon, man. Thank you for having me back on.
Yeah, thanks, Ty. Appreciate it. Have a good one. Enjoy the draft and some other Wisconsin sports things over the next couple of days. People complain about the time off in between games. I don't. I like the 2-day respite. Let me put this team out of sight, out of mind. When we come back, wrap up hour number 1, and I want to talk draft because the draft is tomorrow. And I'll take your calls on whatever. We have some legit, I wouldn't say reporting, but some buzz from people who know. Peter Schrager, others who are very educated and pretty good at projecting where some of these players are going to go. We have some Packers connections that up until this point we haven't had, so we can discuss that next as well.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
It's the Wisco Sports Show. Jesse Temple here in a half hour. He'll join us to talk about the spring showcase, Badgers football, on Saturday. And for those of you who are like, well, it's just a practice. What is there to take away from practice? Why are we talking about that? Well, need I remind you, and apparently I need, at least in this fake conversation, this hypothetical conversation that I've started in my mind, need I remind you, I guess I need to remind you that 2 years ago, you might not remember, the Badgers held this thing called the Launch. And it was just mere months after the hiring of Luke Fickell and his hiring of Phil Longo and the acquisition in the transfer portal of Tanner Mordecai. And everyone was all jacked up and gagged up and excited. And then they looked like the worst football team and the worst offense ever assembled. And we're like, well, that wasn't great. Anyways, moving on. And then the season sucked and the offense wasn't good. And then in year 2, the offense sucked and the offense wasn't good. Now Jeff Grimes is here. There seemed to be a real recommittal, let's say, to physicality on Saturday. So we'll talk about that with Jesse. When we come back in a minute here after, Zach Heilprin's update at 5 o'clock, I want to pass along some draft rumors, if I may. Some connections and some bits of commentary on the Packers and their potential draft plans that haven't really been around the last couple of weeks, which isn't surprising. The draft is tomorrow, so these insiders and reporters are getting more information, and they have more motivation than ever at this moment in time to get it out, because if they don't get it out now, then what's the point? So we could talk about the Packers and what they might be up to tomorrow, and any thoughts on last night's Brewers win as well. Your calls as well on the other side, 608-321-1670. Hour number 2 next.
This is a Wisconsin Sports Zone update.
Well, the series is not over. That was the message from the Bucks after Milwaukee fell 123-115 to the Pacers last night. Game 2 of their series to fall into an 0-2 hole. Despite that, Doc Rivers says no one's panicking.
Yeah, looking at this long series, we haven't played a home game. Yeah, so someone's like, we're 2-8, and someone said, no one makes the playoffs when they're 2-8, but it's the same thing to me, right? We have to go home and take care of business. And then
Game 3 coming up Friday back in Milwaukee. Turn to the Brewers. They're still in San Francisco. It's where they're going to continue their series against the Giants tonight. Teams split the first 2 games of the series. Tonight's going to be Freddie Peralta on the mound for the Crew. He's 2-1 with a 1.91 ERA. He's coming off a scoreless outing against the A's. The Giants down with Logan Webb. He's also 2-1 with a 2.40 ERA. He struck out 12 in his last appearance on the mound. First pitch is set for 8:45. The teams will close out the series tomorrow afternoon before Milwaukee heads to St. Louis.
Rural Mutual Insurance, keeping Wisconsin strong.
When a company only does business in Wisconsin, that's Wisconsin Strong. Rural Mutual provides all lines of insurance, including commercial, farm, home, and auto. And your premiums stay right here to keep Wisconsin strong. Local agents, local underwriters, local claims adjusters.
Rural Mutual Insurance, keeping Wisconsin strong.
Well, the Packers are putting the finishing touches on their draft plan as they prepare for tomorrow's first round. They have pick number 23 in that round. Meanwhile, the city of Green Bay bracing for more than 250,000 people to pass through the city over the weekend. And the Badgers were on the field for practice this morning. They're going to close out spring ball tomorrow morning with practice number 15. With this Wisconsin Sports Zone Network update, I'm Zach Heil, Print.
The game's going to go in flows. It's going to do that. They're going to make runs. Listen, they went up 15, but are we going to talk about our run? We made a run to get back in the game. A lot of unforced turnovers. I liked how we played tonight overall. Shot almost 51% and should have shot the ball better. Could have moved the ball even better. So I like where we're tracking.
This is where Wisconsin gathers to talk sports. Packers, Brewers, Badgers, Bucks. The Wisco Sports Show is on the air. Now, here's your host, Grant Bills.
Hour number 2, some real draft buzz today and some scoops or some reporting or some mock drafts that aren't in and of themselves reports. But someone like Peter Schrager, who's plugged in every building and here's a lot of things, right? And he said this in the past. I don't watch college football. I don't go to the combine to look at workouts or measurements. I just talk to people. That's what I do. And that's how I do my mock draft. An interesting selection. He has the Packers selecting a wide receiver. So I can get to that in a couple minutes. I want to get to some of your phone calls. Let's break the seal here. It's open phone lines. Grab them. 608-321-1670 on the Bucks. The draft tomorrow or last night's Brewers win. It's all on the board. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this? I'm doing excellent, Vagabond John. Are you coming back to Wisconsin from the Twin Cities? If you're crossing in Stillwater and Hudson, I believe that is the St. Croix, but I know that's not the point of your call. I just need to scratch that itch. Correct. It is. And maybe we'll circle back to it after the season. There's just a lot going on right now. I'm not in need at this moment in time of conversations like that. Although it's interesting, and I know you want to talk about it, so let's do it.
And I am in full agreement, Grant, that the defense has enough talent And I think tomorrow, when the Green Bay Packers go up there with their 23rd overall pick, I think they will be doing Jordan Love an absolute disservice by buying the hype of Pete Bukowski and the rest of the podcast crew and believing Dontavian Wicks is a real number one receiver. And I think the Packers have a chance to right 15-plus years of wrongs or however long it's been. They need to get a weapon, whether that's a receiver, whether that's one of these incredible running backs, or whether it's one of these dominant tight ends. I think there's a couple of different positions, but I think an offensive skill position is what I'm excited to see. So I'm looking forward to it.
If Ashton Genty makes it to 23, would the Packers be silly not to take him?
100%.
He's not making it to 23. I'm just saying, let's say, but no one would think, Aaron Rodgers would make it to 24. So, would you throw every plan and every consideration that you had previously made out the window if Ashton Genty made it to 23? I think I might. It'd be kind of cool.
Me, I would, just because Josh Jacobs is elite. Obviously, he's not getting any younger, and then Marshawn Lloyd has been MIA. And you look at NFL teams and how they're built. The running game is back, baby. You need some beef. By the way, that goes the same for Colston Loveland. I think tight end is a position where the Packers are nowhere near needing one, right? But that dude's an absolute monster, and if he's there, man, pick him up. Let's build a Philadelphia Eagles late. Why not?
So I guess I'm with you less on tight end, and they certainly don't need a running back. I guess it's just a fun exercise to think, if the stud player that no one would have ever thought would be there at 23, do you have, is he that great where you'd have to take him? I don't know. It'd be an interesting scenario, and it's not going to happen because I don't think Genty's going to make it past 5 or 6. Right or wrong, but you can't draft a running back that high. Well, but it's cool. but have you watched him? He's awesome, and it's fun. So I like how football people can kind of talk out of both sides of their mouth, myself included. It's it's silly to take a running back that high. But also, Ashton Genty's kind of sweet. Who wouldn't want that on their team? And it is odd that both of those realities can exist at once in my brain, but they do. So, no, I won't consider the Packers to be doing a disservice to Jordan Love if they don't select a wide receiver. But I will say, I think a lot of Packers fans, and maybe podcasters too, are, I think, underemphasizing the need for another body or two at that position. You know what I mean? I think a lot of Packers people, and this is force of habit over the years, got to go defense, got to help the defense. Well, look, the defense could use a nice young corner. Been saying that for 2 or 3 years. They could use an edge rusher or a defensive lineman. Of course, probably couldn't use a safety, but they could use a great player at any position. You know what I mean? Duh. But a lot of Packers fans talk about the offense and the defense well, you got to work on the defense. We're set on offense, man. You got to fix the defense. No, I don't think you're set on offense. I think you need a trustworthy option at wide receiver with real legit ball skills. And that doesn't mean that you're giving up on any further progression from Dontavian Wicks or Jaden Reed or Romeo Doubs. You're just ensuring that if those players maybe have hit their ceiling, that you're not going to be stuck, with your thumb up your butt this year. And I think some Packers fans have missed the boat on that. It's got to build the defense, got to build it. The defense, okay, yeah, you could use a nice player, but guys, they're not set at wide receiver. They're not. And if Dontavian Wicks and Romeo Doubs take a huge leap this year, okay, well, then they also have a talented young wide receiver. It's a good problem to have. 608-321-1670, Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Grant, this sounds a lot like the discussions we were having last year with these receivers. You remember the ripe avocado example you used? We're right back in that same spot right now.
Sounds like something I would say. I was probably more, last year, because it was only year 2 with Jordan Love, I was fine being more patient with the young guys. And I'm still hopeful for the young guys, but I'm no longer patient. You can't afford to be patient. You understand that difference, though. I think we're speaking along the same lines.
Yeah, 100%. I was calling in because I saw the I don't know if you were going to get to this or you've gotten to it yet, but George Pickens to Green Bay. Have you heard those rumors?
I've seen the headlines today that just seems so out of pocket. Why would the Packers want him? Because they're going to have to pay him before too long, too. I don't think he was ever on their draft board the year that he was available in the draft, and a lot of people wanted him to go. What was that, 2022? It's I don't know that I'd buy it.
He doesn't seem like a quote unquote Packer either. So it'd be very confusing if they brought him in, but we need talent. He's sure as hell talented. So I'd consider, I'd take a flyer on him. I don't know if I'd trade a first round pick, but
I don't know what it would
in the later round.
It can't cost much, man. The rumor is from Jordan Schultz that George Pickens is more available than people think, and the Packers have serious interest, an AFC GM said to the Schultz report. Interesting. I don't know that I buy
And then did I hear that we were doing a Giannis versus Aaron Rodgers debate, or was that just Vagabond John?
It got brought up at the very end of the show yesterday. It was Vagabond John. I feel like that's a better topic for the summer once the Bucs have been eliminated and we have no games to talk about, but we can pick at it now too.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's even comical to compare the two. From an organizational power standpoint, Giannis has way, way, way more power than Aaron Rodgers ever had, maybe even with the Jets.
Yeah.
I think Giannis has more power and control over this current Bucs team. A lot of his decisions have gotten us to where we are, in my opinion. And I mean, Rodgers just never had that power.
So Griffin, yes. Before I let you go, like, what are the other things that you would attribute to Giannis, just so I understand you clearly?
I mean, Griffin, 100%. 100%.
Which is a bad one, because that's also kind of the reason that they are currently coached by Doc Rivers. So it's not just like one thing. That's a thing that led to other things. I don't know.
I think that just put that was a bomb in this organization, because then you hear the reports of Jimmy Haslam, you know, up going over John Horst's head. So I don't know. I think from an organizational standpoint, that Adrian Griffin thing is about as big and detrimental as it can get.
Yes, and if that is the one thing, and the reports are that was kind of Giannis's guy. Horst had previously wanted Kenny Atkinson, and that got shot down. I'm fine that they didn't hire Nick Nurse. I never wanted Nick Nurse, but Carlisle would have been available. Part of it is luck too, because the Bucs were pretty probably set to make a coaching change post 21, and then they won the finals. So a guy like Rick Carlisle, who left the Dallas job pretty well aware that, like, yeah, the Bucs job could be open, but then they won the title, which was great. But if Carlisle would have been leaving the Mavericks, 2 years later, who knows where that could have gone. I don't know that I can attribute many other things to Giannis, unless the Bucs really wanted to trade Middleton 2 years ago, and Giannis was like, no. But that would also kind of surprise me. Like, I really don't think the organization wanted to trade Chris, and I don't know that Giannis had anything to do with that. A couple more calls. If you're on hold, I'll get to you this segment. I promise. Hang tight. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Lulu.
Hello, Dave.
Okay. Couple things. As my famous character of Flintstones, Gazoo, once said, listen here, dum-dums. They're not taking a receiver. You should, from this day forward, clip every idiot who calls in and talks about a receiver. They're idiots. They're dumb. They're clueless. I'm going to tell you what they're going to do. It's pretty simple.
Okay.
The last 6, I told the dum-dums yesterday, just like Gazoo, Fred and Barney didn't listen either. The last 6 teams, they all won by what? Putting pressure on the quarterback and stopping the run.
Sure.
Something Green Bay has never done, never will do with the current dum-dums they have up front.
Well, they stopped the run last year, but they sure as hell didn't pressure the quarterback.
The playoff games,
they got a part of it.
Playoff games. Yeah, in the playoff games, they didn't. That's why they got knocked out. And the games they lost, they got torched. Okay? And they didn't put pressure on the quarterback. Frisco and Philadelphia, they got an unbelievable front four. People, why are you not comprehending this? But as far as the Bucs game last night, oh my God, I wanted to throw up my phone. Why Kuzma is guarding somebody where the greatest player in our lifetime is sitting there on his fat ass doing nothing? That's the man you want on Siakam, because you want your best player on their best player. So where was Giannis? Disappeared.
I don't want to do this again. So good call, Dave. I'm not discounting wide receiver as much as you are. First of all, the defense, and this is going back to Bud too, has always had Giannis as more of a centerpiece and a rim protector, which I think is how he's best used, not as a one-on-one guy. Siakam caught the ball off a catch and shoot. So it's not like he was D'd up one-on-one with Kuzma. Kuzma just lost him. So I don't know that your frustration is warranted there. Also, Giannis has to catch a break sometime. The recipe to win any games against the Pacers is for him to score 36 plus. And he can't do a lot of one-on-one, nor should he. And this isn't really a team that has a one-on-one guy. He's not going to check Halliburton. That's not advantageous to the Bucs. Now, if they were playing against Clippers and Kawhi Leonard, right? Or Jason Tatum, like maybe that'd be a little different, but I still don't think that's the best use of Giannis' skill set, and it's tiring him out when he's needed on the other end. So plenty of frustration and plenty of good reason to be annoyed. I don't know that that's where I'd start though, Dave. Let's go sports show. Another caller. Who's this?
Eric on I-90.
Good evening, Eric.
Good evening. I'm at my secret lair tonight. I'm getting it all set up for the summer.
I like this. Oh, are you up north?
Yeah.
Are you at the cabin or something?
It's not really. It's north of you. You know, it's probably more east of La Crosse.
Okay.
I'm centrally located. About right in the middle of the state.
Okay. Not up north, but farther north than some places. I gotcha. Well, what's up?
Well, do you think you're going to get your wide receiver? Do you think you're going to get it?
Well,
I think everybody's really wishing for that.
Peter Schrager reported today in his mock draft. He's pretty good at mock drafts. He typically does pretty well. He thinks the Packers are going to take Matthew Golden, the Texas wide receiver, at 23. Because I don't think McMillan's going to get nearly far enough. I don't even think McMillan's going to get past 10, which puts him in a reasonable ballpark if the Packers really wanted to go for it and trade up. But Matthew Golden, fast as heck. Like, he could be that guy too. The fact that Peter Schrager's saying it intrigues me. I will say that.
I would like to see the Vikings. Well, reality, the Vikings need to pick up another cornerback because you can't have enough. That's reality. Right?
Corner
That's
or
reality.
quarterback?
Corner. And you know, if they picked a running back, I wouldn't be too upset about that. I'm not really going to be upset at all about anything that happens. But yeah, I think that's the way I want the Vikings to go. And I know that I got you to lash out against the Vikings a little bit last time.
Just a bit.
And that's perfect. Now
I need a little bit more of that.
Up in underneath your skin just a little bit. And I'm just like you last year, Grant. We're just full of optimism.
Right.
You guys last year were full of optimism. You can go back and read the court reporter, what he said. You guys were plumb full.
We were.
And the analogy of a ripe avocado is about what those wide receivers were, weren't they?
Yeah.
You talked about the Packers, but they weren't like a ripe peach or a ripe apple. They were avocados. An avocado isn't high on my list. But I mean, they're right in there. That's about what those boys were last year. That's how they performed, like avocados, I would say.
I don't remember this analogy. By the way, I'm now caught up on Survivor. I'm glad that Camilla survived. I am all in on Kyle and Camilla. And Christy, who went home, has a point. Like, people are getting away with stuff in this season that in previous seasons they just wouldn't. Like, challenge beasts with strong partnerships do not just go unchecked like this. This has been a weird season in that regard.
It's been interesting. I'm going to probably get home in time to watch that. I'm just getting her all set up out here.
All right.
Ready for action. So
out here.
You have a great night.
You as well, Eric. I won't be out here. I will be in the district next weekend, though. You're old haunt. All right, we got time for one more call, then we'll take a break. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Packer. How are you today, Grant?
Oh, Uncle Packer. I thought you said Patrick. What's going on, Uncle Packer?
No, not much. Just kind of excited about tomorrow. I'm thinking, I was thinking about next year. If we get Mel Kiper's got us moving up into the late teens and taking the wide receiver from Ohio State, and I can't say his name.
Emeka Egbuka.
But Emeka Egbuka. Well, I hope we do that. I mean, that'd be great to get a wide receiver. I kind of doubt it with our history, but I think this coming year when we play, we're going to have Marshawn Lloyd. Hopefully he's healthy. And they said that he'd be like a high draft pick out of a very heavy running back group this year, that he'd have been pretty high in the draft if he'd have waited another year, although he is older. So I'm excited to see what he brings. I'm excited to get Musgraves back for a whole year. I think we're going to look a lot different if we can get healthy and get a couple stars. I just wish we could have picked up somebody in free agency, but that's past. Unless we get somebody before the trade deadline.
They could. I mean, they added a guard and a corner in free agency. It's not like they didn't do anything.
Yeah.
They added Mecole Hardman.
That guard's amazing. Yeah. I think that guard's going to carry a lot. I think I know I shouldn't say this, the TP thing that people are trying to ban. I think that guard's going to be a big part of that. I think we're going to do that ourselves with not maybe our quarterback, but with with Kraft.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're going to be doing some of that too, just like everybody else. So it's still there. Who would you think that if you could pick for the Packers, who would you take in this draft?
I will probably give you my full answer tomorrow, Uncle Packer. That's a good call. I don't know that any of these wide receivers are good enough other than maybe McMillan to take it 23. And people much smarter than me have said the same thing. So unless one of these edge rushers falls a little bit farther than expected, or maybe the Packers really like one of these edge rushers, I don't know. It's tough to tell. I think Derek Harmon's my guy. I've seen him mocked anywhere from 15 to 25, like anywhere in there. The defensive lineman from Oregon, that sounds fun. That sounds interesting. I think that would be a really nice piece to add to their defensive front. Not an edge rusher, but a guy who can still pressure the quarterback up the middle. And maybe if he makes an impact, even in limited time, that helps the edge rushers get home. So I will give you my official pick tomorrow, but I think that's where I sit at this moment in time. Let's take a break. We'll come back. I'll give you some details from Peter Schrager, some final draft thoughts, and then Jesse Temple at 5:30.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
The Wisco Sports Show. I'm going to get back to another phone call or two, Jesse Temple, in about 10 minutes. Peter Schrager, as I told you in that first segment, mocking Matthew Golden to the Packers, which is, whatever. It's a mock draft. But Peter Schrager over the years proven himself to be pretty accurate with these things. And it's not because he grinds tape and he just talks to teams. He's really plugged in. He wrote with ESPN because that's where he is now. I know it's out of character for Green Bay to take a wide receiver in round one. They haven't done it since 2002, but in this scenario, Golden could slide right to them and I can't see him sliding much more. Green Bay could go in several directions. I doubt anyone thought the Packers could get the consensus top whiteout on many boards, though. I don't know that. Is he the consensus wideout for anybody? Strengths for Matthew Golden: meets the moment with big plays and big games. Adequate linear speed to work past corners on vertical routes. Adequate linear speed. That doesn't seem good enough. Agile feet allow quicker gather and cut as a route runner. Good alteration of route tempo and intermediate work. Shows ability to sink, slow, and quickly open from hard vertical push. Twitchy pluck and tuck protects the catch through contact. Displays body control and focus for highlight reel adjustments and grabs. Big play kick return talent with 2 touchdowns as a sophomore at Houston. Weaknesses: can be nonchalant, takes a foot off the gas if he feels like he's covered, pops upright into route breaks, providing a coverage tell. Needs to play stronger at the top of the route, inconsistent on working back to throws to protect the catch point. That seems like an issue playing with Jordan Love. Poor hand timing causes focus drops underneath. Well, that's what we need more of. I don't know that I'm in on Matthew Golden. I don't know that I'm interested in that at pick 23. Although Mike Clemens did text me, and I'll just read it to you verbatim. I missed this earlier today, but I can't watch everything. It says Matthew Golden told Rich Eisen today that he was in Green Bay 2 weeks ago for a visit, had a sit down with Goody and all the coaches. He also had a face-to-face with the Cowboys and Jerry Jones. Something to consider. I don't know if Matthew Golden's my guy. All right, let's take a call. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
This is Tony from Texas. Hey, could you imagine Matthew Golden talking to Jerry and then talking to Goot? The difference?
Well, funny. I mean, that's very true. Matthew Golden to the Cowboys is interesting. Be the guy opposite CeeDee Lamb. I'd be entertained by that. I would root for that to happen.
I want to circle back with the NFL draft. I know I'm up against it with Jesse Temple. I'm always getting bumped for Jesse.
No. You're good. I don't got a break for 7 minutes. You're the only caller. So
okay.
Doesn't mean you get 8 minutes, but you're not up against it. We're good.
Your Bucks analysis is awesome. I love it. It's some of the best analysis out there. And you know why? Because you're calling it like it is. These guys are space cadets. They're not paying attention. They don't care. It's all about the money. They say they care, but they really don't, Grant. And part of basketball, what I've learned the last 5 years of coaching, is if you can't focus and you can't play defense and you don't care about I know it's a cliche, the name on the front of the jersey, then I don't want you to play for me. Why the Bucks would want Kuzma, I get it, is because it's an expiring contract.
Yeah.
But did you think he would really be better than Chris Middleton was last year? I didn't.
Well, you could probably bet on Kuzma to be healthier. Like, you can probably bank on that. And he's a guy with playoff experience. It just drives me nuts, Tony, to see guys who, I mean, not to make it sound so simple, they just don't seem like they're dialed in and locked in big moments. It doesn't seem like they're playing for their life in the final 2 minutes of a playoff game. And that's just disappointing, I guess.
Well, and you know, PJ Tucker, he wasn't the greatest player when he was on the Bucks, but say what you want about the guy. The guy was a leader, and we needed dogs.
He was dialed in.
You know, like that famous. He keeps these guys. He kept the guys accountable that were on the Bucks back then. And who knows if they actually win the title without him? And they don't have that. I mean, Bobby maybe a little bit. He'll get up someone's ass, but you know he's got his own issues. So I just don't know.
He needs someone up his rear end too. Like, okay, if Bobby's the enforcer, he also then needs an enforcer of his own.
Exactly. Like kind of like Dennis Rodman did. So I don't know why anyone thought the Bucks were going anywhere, and it's not even worth our time talking about. If they can win 2 in a row, okay, we'll start talking about that. But back to the Packers.
Yes.
I do think that wide receiver is in play for the Packers. Just think about this: Watson's out; he's not coming back.
Correct.
Dobbs, his contract's up soon, right?
Concussion issue. I mean, soonish.
Soonish. But they got to make decisions on that. He wants some security, which I understand, and he's a very good player. And then Wicks, you know, he hasn't proven anything, and Jaden Reed's not the same type of. He's a slot guy, so I think it makes sense. It would be the first pick since Javon Walker, and he was a really good player. So I can actually see the Packers doing that.
I can too. And the board might fall that way. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know that the Packers are going into this draft like, this is the year we're going to do it. I think this could be the year that it happens, just because, like, if all the edge rushers and D linemen come off the board, they might have their pick of 2 or 3 different wide receivers. You know what I mean? I do worry about bringing in a wide receiver who, like Matthew Golden, it's like, is that really the McMillan seems like he could be the answer, and Ibuka might be great as a rookie. I have questions about everybody else.
Right. No, it makes sense. And I want the training wheels off of Jordan Love too. I mean, this guy's got to come through this year. Otherwise, it's going to start to look like, all right, is he really a franchise quarterback?
Yeah.
I don't know. I think Jordan Love's the key to this whole thing anyway.
Yeah, but I think the Packers would be wise to give Jordan Love a little help. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know that anybody thought that Jalen Hurts is a world beater, especially on this contract, but look at what the Eagles have surrounded him with. You know what I mean? Guys who can go catch deep balls, which is Jalen Hurts' specialties, like Russell Wilson in that way. Jordan Love is not the most pinpoint accurate guy in the world. He can make throws, but he's not the put the ball through a keyhole type guy. So you got to get guys with ball skills and a little bit bigger catch radius, and that's just not really the wide receiver room that they've built. And I like these guys. I think they can continue to get better, but you can't bank on it this year.
Hey, Grant, spot on. Are you going to the draft? What's your itinerary?
Are
for
you
tomorrow?
going to the draft?
I am not. I'm in Texas.
I'm surprised you're not.
Off this weekend. What are you doing?
No, I'm sitting here. We're doing Bill's draft show tomorrow night, so I will be a part of that. But I will be back here, comfortable in studio, which I'm.
All right. Have a great draft night. Let's go.
Thank you. You too, Tony. I appreciate it. It looks like fun in Green Bay. Like I was seeing some pictures today. I'm like, that'd be cool to be up there. It's just then I can't take calls, and then the show's not as interactive, and we can't, go nuts over picks. And I got to find somewhere with internet to do the show. And I understand I sound lazy right now, but it's okay. I'll stay here in studio. Bill's been up there. He had like 50, 60 people in Berkel's today just for the day before the draft show. Not even the show before the draft show. The show before the show before the draft show. So I'll leave that to him. He's up there. He's doing the thing. And Mike Clemens is up there. He'll give us the goods and everything that he's hearing and seeing. Let's take a break. We'll come back with Jesse Temple, and then there'll be a little extra time at the very end of the show. And we can get into, any final draft thoughts. I'll dig up a couple more comments, specifically with wide receivers, because I think that's what everyone's most interested in.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 5 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 4 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
Wisco Sports Show. My name is Grant Bills. Appreciate you being here. A couple of texts at 608-321-1670. Ed from Menominee says the rooftop bar on Anduzzi's is open. It's awesome. That does sound fun. I went to Anduzzi's in February, had a bowl of chili and a brown Goldschwager shot. What kind of shot? Some kind of shot. I don't remember. Bobby in Menominee, his words, not mine. Don't clip this. Says, I just want Halliburton injured. As a society, we can't let people be that annoying. I'm just passing along the information. Not saying I agree or disagree. Duncan Holman says, great nickname, by the way, from Uncle Packer for the tush push, the TP. Yeah, I love that he censored himself from saying tush. I know we're not going to say tush push. I think the tush push discourse has luckily subsided for now. We're on to the draft. It's been tabled. I think it's probably best for all of us, especially us on Sports Talk Radio. It's like we didn't need to be talking about that every day. It was fun for a bit, but that thing has become overplayed. Let's talk a little Badgers football. Their last day of spring practice is tomorrow. So I recorded with Jesse Temple earlier today some really good talking points and details from the last week or so. Jesse Temple is here for his weekly visit, covers the Badgers, joins all of our shows every week, and catch him on the camp with Zach. This week's podcast was especially good because not only have you been talking about spring practice, but you talked about the spring showcase. And I made mention of it a little last week and earlier this week on my show. And it's like, well, it's a practice. What can you take away from the practice? But then we all remember the launch 2 years ago, and that was so bad. And then the season didn't turn out to be great. So I think people are actually looking for some level of competence. What were your big picture takeaways from Saturday? And then we can get a little bit more detailed.
Well, I don't know if there were a ton of home runs from the top two quarterbacks. Danny O'Neal did complete a 42-yard pass to Joseph Griffin Jr. My big takeaway was the very first play of the scrimmage. I feel like it was Jeff Grimes making a statement to the people who showed up about what Wisconsin football is going to be again, because they lined up in a freaking I formation. Billy Edwards Jr. under center, Jackson Aker at fullback, Dylan Jones at running back, Aker blocks, and Jones plows ahead for 13 yards and a first down. That is what Wisconsin football wants to be and get back to. And while Grimes' offense, as we've said previously, is not going to fully resemble Badgers teams of yesteryear, there is a level of physicality that is back with Wisconsin football, which I imagine must be music to Badgers fans' ears.
So after Kozioil left, what did you see from that tight end group? Like, do you think they have the muscle and the firepower to do some of the things that Grimes, we assume, wants to do? Ran a lot of 12 or 22 personnel in the past, and I assume he wants to continue to do that. They have the bodies.
I think they're going to need to add a tight end through the transfer portal. Obviously, this spring has been a little unusual for Wisconsin. Most times, if you're losing guys, they were third stringers. They dropped down the depth chart. They wanted to see where they were. But Tanner Koziel comes, and then a couple months later is in the portal. The same for Mark Camper at wide receiver, and obviously Kevin Haywood tearing his ACL left tackle. So those are spots they're going to need to address. It gives more opportunity for someone like Tucker Ashcraft. And then obviously a Jackson Aker, who I mentioned, he moved from running back to tight end, but I also think he's going to get a significant number of snaps at fullback. I looked at my notes, and that first drive of the first team offense, I had him lining up at fullback for at least 5 plays. So there's that. And Grant Steck is a young player who I think has a real opportunity to flourish, but it's a lot of inexperience in terms of guys who have had past receptions. Aker can do it. I just think he's going to be asked to do different things, so I can see him going to the portal.
I heard you and Zach on the camp earlier this week kind of starting off. Like, the defense looked better than the offense for whatever that's worth, or they won periods, or they scored more. Does the defense look now on the field in an actual scrimmage setting markedly bigger and tougher than last year, because that was an issue?
Yeah, you never know. I want to be careful because you never know how it's going to translate exactly to the actual season. But this is my general sentiment coming out of spring ball. And the final practice will be Thursday. And then Wisconsin obviously won't hit the field again until end of July, early August for fall camp. The general structure of both the offense and defense just feel like what Wisconsin should have been all along. And I know that they went to a new offense and it was like putting a square peg into a round hole. Defensively, it just never looked quite right. But they've got so many 300-plus pounders. You can look at who they went and got at from the transfer portal. The lightest guy is 297 pounds, Corey Walker, who's playing on the edge. I just think they've got a little more versatility. And there is some nastiness in the middle. A guy like Charles Perkins, who transferred from UT Martin, has really stood out to me as an interior defensive lineman. I think all of this stems from the Iowa loss and the way the Badgers lost, that, okay, we're not going to let that happen again, but you're going to be playing the hardest schedule you've maybe ever played this season. So we'll see whether it translates well enough to the field.
You said this is the offense, or this is what it maybe should have looked like at the very beginning. Had Luke Fickell hired Jeff Grimes when he arrived, or some equivalent of Jeff Grimes, have you considered maybe the different place the program could be in if that was the reality, instead of kind of starting over 2 years in?
No, because it's just a hypothetical that's impossible to entertain. And I say that because who knows who they would have gotten from the portal. Obviously, when you get a new coach and a new offense, you're overhauling a lot of things. And yes, this is an offense that has a lot of staples. I mentioned the I formation, the use of a fullback. There's a lot of pre-snap motion, a lot of wide receivers getting the ball in open space in the backfield in a variety of ways. There are things we grew accustomed to. They're also still trying to do some shotgun spread concepts and get the ball down the field and blend the best of these worlds. But it's hard to entertain because you don't know who would have been available 2 years ago and who actually would have come here, what it would have looked like.
So that's very fair. And that's the type of thing that radio hosts like me will pick at, and we will entertain those hypotheticals and have fun with them. You guys typically are a little bit more reasoned and rationed, and I appreciate that. Jesse Temple is here, joins us every week. A couple more football things. O'Neal looked good. Maybe that's because he flashed, or was Billy Edwards Jr. maybe not as sharp or not as good as you expected? Tell me what you saw from the quarterbacks on Saturday.
So I took unofficial stats. This is really the only practice in the spring where you can do that because it's a public showcase. And I had Billy Edwards Jr. going 9 for 16 for 65 yards, and Danny O'Neal going 6 for 11 for 91 yards. And 42 of those yards, like I said, went down the left sideline to Joseph Griffin Jr. I don't know if either of them really set the world on fire, but they didn't have huge mistakes. And we had a chance to talk this week with quarterbacks coach Kenny Guyton, and he talked about avoiding what he called disaster decisions. I think we've seen a handful of those throughout the spring. So that's a good sign. You know, on the whole, though, I think O'Neal has gotten a lot better as practices have progressed. He's able to make the big play. What separates him is the way he can escape pressure in the pocket. That's one of his strengths. And it's, to me, knowing the speed of the game and, well, when do you leave the pocket? When do you try to complete a pass? And how do you know when to get rid of the ball? Those are all things that I think he's going to have to work on. And with Billy Edwards Jr., it's just a matter of consistency in general. Because, again, there have been some practices where he had multiple interceptions, but there are other moments where he puts a great throw on somebody. Can you avoid those huge mistakes? It's going to put Wisconsin in a bad position.
Am I a fanboy or an idealist to think that Cade Giacomelli is a symbol of maybe the years of Badger football that we miss, and that he's definitely a player who should have a role? Like, he's one of their better players on offense, isn't he? Like, he needs to have a role.
I don't think it's inappropriate to get a wave of nostalgia when you see Cade Giacomelli's decision to come back. Zach and I talked about this on the camp dating back to December. I would have put, if I had a big board of who's going to transfer out first, I would have put Cade Giacomelli at number 1 because
1-1.
how can you average 8.3 yards per carry and then not get a carry over the final 5 games, which coincides with a 5-game losing streak? You would want to go somewhere where you know you're going to play. Now, we had a chance to talk to Cade this past week, and he said all the right things and said that it was positive conversations he had not only with Luke Fickell, but with running backs coach Devin Spalding about what his role would be. That seemed to me to be more of a leadership role. They told him how important he was going to be as a leader. Now, Cade did say he was told, or he feels like this is going to be my year. I don't really know what that means because Darian Dupree and Dylan Jones are still on this roster. And if both are healthy, I think they're the first 2 guys getting carries. But Cade absolutely is good enough to have a role. In the spring showcase, and this was put on social media, I'm sure, he broke a 55-yard touchdown run. There was an open hole, granted, but then he ran away from the defense. And will Wisconsin's coaches look at this and say, well, we want to shorten the rotation and just emphasize developing 2 running backs like we did last year? Or will there be a role for Giacomelli as a running back? He's going to compete on special teams. He's good enough to be a guy in the rotation at running back, but it's just hard to know what that place is when you've got 2 other talented young guys you want to develop.
A wave of nostalgia is a much better. You put it much better than I did. A footnote, perhaps. We talked about Hamper last week and Cozy Oil too, but Hamper, the wide receiver, is Quincy Burrows. Is there anything there that we need to know or discuss, or is that just a guy who wasn't high enough on the depth chart and he's looking elsewhere for opportunity?
I think it stems from that. I will say there were some good moments from him early in the spring, but there are just so many bodies there. And ultimately, how many guys on the outside are going to play? You know, you have Vinny Anthony. They went and they got Jaden Ballard from Ohio State, who's got 1 year left.
That's right.
The other guy who has really stood out, and wide receivers coach Jordan Reed mentioned him specifically, Chris Brooks Jr., who we haven't heard much from. He's battled injuries. He had 1 catch for 27 yards against Nebraska last year. Reed called him the standard of the room. Those are your top 3 wide receivers right now on the outside, with Joseph Griffin Jr. potentially trying to get in there. I also think Wisconsin's going to go to the transfer portal and see what they can get. And so I don't know if Burrows had a defined role. And ultimately, when you've been in a program for a couple of years and don't see that for yourself, it's easy to go somewhere else. So, I mean, there's still some questions to figure out at multiple positions offensively for sure.
I've seen a lot about Brooks. If Badgers fans maybe haven't been dialed in, what do we need to know about the way he's popped in spring?
Incredibly physical. The dude is 6'2", 222 pounds. The one thing that stands out about Jaden Ballard, and another great practice on Wednesday, caught 3 touchdown passes. He can get down the field. His length and athleticism and speed stand out, but working on a route tree and being able to develop and catch passes over the middle are things he's still trying to get better at. With Chris Brooks Jr., I mean, he could do a little bit of everything. Vinny Anthony talked about how he's got surprising speed for a dude that big. He wants to out-physical a DB. He can win 50-50 balls, but he can be a safety valve going over the middle. I got questions the last couple of years about why isn't Chris Brooks Jr. being used as a tight end because of his body and his versatility. Again, he dealt with injuries. I remember the first couple practices when Phil Longo first got here. Chris Brooks Jr. had a great catch on each of the first couple of days where you went, wow. And then he got hurt and you just didn't see him. So I think he's got a legitimate opportunity here to be someone who can be a complementary piece at wide receiver.
I like to hear that. Lastly, Daniel Freitag. He ends up at Buffalo, correct? Yes, Buffalo. So when he first announced that he was transferring, I think most Badgers fans could put the puzzle pieces together. He's just not far enough along. And Greg Gard said, well, you could stay, but you're not good enough. So he said, well, I'm going to go where I can play. Doesn't this destination kind of confirm those thoughts and kind of close the book of Freitag at Wisconsin? We kind of understand the full picture.
I would say
now,
that
right?
is a fair way to put it. If all the offers came in and it was every Power 4 school, then that would be a little bit different. But obviously, he was the highest rated point guard that Wisconsin had signed. There were so many expectations as a 4-star player, and then he got here, and sometimes it takes longer for players than you want. And that's what ultimately ended up happening. We talked about before, by the end of the season, they were using Cam Hunter, a guy who really wasn't a good fit and ended up transferring, and they used him instead of Daniel Freitag. So yeah, to see him end up at a place like Buffalo makes sense for where things ended up at Wisconsin. And ultimately you hope the best for him and hope he's able to find a role there.
Same. And selfishly, I wish Amos would have stuck around because I felt like he was tapping into something, or he was getting comfortable in the last couple of weeks, but his role probably would have been much of the same. You know, one of the first guys off the bench. And well, as a Badgers fan, I would love that because I think he'd be an asset. I understand why he would want to look elsewhere for opportunity. We will continue to follow your coverage throughout the spring, Jesse, and listen to you on the camp. I appreciate the time.
Thanks, Grant.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
It's just a mentality. You know, we each and every one of us on this team, we know what our job is. We know what our role is. We know how we got here. And we just have to go out there and do it. You know, we have to keep it as simple as possible. Obviously, we got to follow the game plan. But just go out there and be who we are. You know, we don't want to overthink anything. We want to go out there, be the player that got us here, and just outwork the other team.
It's Brooke Lopez, a little bit more commentary on what needs to change in Game 3. Last segment of the Wisco Sports Show. Appreciate Jesse Temple for stopping by. Appreciate all of your calls. One piece of audio, and this isn't draft related. This is Bucks related. This was this afternoon, I think, on NBA Today or whatever afternoon version of NBA content ESPN still has. This is Michael Wilbon, and I am sorry, I can't remember how to say her name. It's like, is it Chini or Chini? Ogwumike? I'm so sorry. I'm sorry. I can't remember. She's an analyst. She does a lot of NBA stuff on ESPN. I've just been seeing Giannis clips this week. And yeah, we might be watching the last couple games of Giannis in Milwaukee. I don't know. But if you want to make that case, go ahead and make that case. Do a segment on that. Some of these other segments just confuse me. Here's a minute on basically the ESPN panel reacting to Giannis's comments from the postgame presser last night.
It's life or death, you know. That's how it is for me. I know the deal. I've been here before.
So those are Giannis's comments. I've been here before. I know the deal. ESPN.
Is Giannis talking about the series and just game 3, which moves to Milwaukee next? Or is he talking about something bigger than that? I just wonder because
I'll jump in and say he's just talking about game 3. Giannis might be on the outs of Milwaukee. He's talking about game 3.
Giannis is not always that demonstrative. You know how we've been around Giannis a lot. It's usually a little lower key than that. This sounded like, okay, there was an edge to it that I don't necessarily associate with Giannis.
I resent the line of thinking that Giannis does not have an edge. As someone who's watched Giannis a lot, I have seen him basically in basketball form attempt to rip people's heads from their bodies. So the idea that he's this docile, peaceful water buffalo of a human being, I don't, again, as with most of this Giannis analysis, I don't know where it comes from.
It does feel like it's life or death for the franchise, especially maximizing his talents and creating a team around him.
I do not feel that way. As I said yesterday, this team isn't going anywhere. If they beat Indiana, they will be drawing dead in round number 2. So the idea that, like, if they don't go on a deep run, okay, well, they're not going on a deep run. That's not happening. So, like, let's start there. Let's stop wasting our time.
That will be successful. You bring up something really interesting because the Giannis we knew for the first 5 or 6 years was the jokester, the fun guy,
dad jokes,
dad jokes and all that. How the energy has shifted,
changed.
and I don't blame him.
I don't think the energy has shifted that much. Just a week ago, I'm seeing videos of him cracking jokes at practice. This is what angers me, not the idea that Giannis could leave Milwaukee, because he very well could. We just make stuff up. We're just throwing stuff at a wall.
The first 2 games of the series, he's averaging 35 points per game, 15 rebounds, 4 assists, shooting 65% from the field, better than first-team All-NBA numbers, yet his team still has issues.
Yeah.
Some of them out of their control with Dame Lillard's situation, and we're grateful that he's back. But still, it feels like this is a pressure inflection moment for them to see if they can respond, even though they're in the hole.
I don't feel that there's a lot riding on the line this series. If they lose this series or if they lose next round, I think the result this offseason is the same, where the Bucks are probably going to have some tough conversations, and that might result with Giannis being like, I can't win here. This thing's burnt out. You don't have any resources left. Your roster clearly isn't good enough. We still don't have a good coach. Although I don't even really know what a good coach is worth in the NBA these days, because you have a bad month and the guy's fired. See Mike Malone or Taylor Jenkins or whoever. Well, the players don't like him. Well, do the players know what the hell they're doing? I don't think anything that takes place this offseason will be driven by success or lack thereof the remainder of this Pacers series. I would certainly prefer for the Bucks to win a first-round series, and it would be funny just because screw the Pacers and screw their fans. It's a team of JV superstars with big mouths. They're probably better than the Bucks. Doesn't mean I have to like them. So I would enjoy watching them lose probably as much as I would enjoy watching the Bucks win the series, because I know what's coming around the corner. This idea, well, if they don't go on a run, if it doesn't happen now, and I think I played you that audio yesterday, where it's like, if they don't win the title, okay, well, they're not winning the title this year. So, like, let's skip past that and just go straight to the analysis. You know what I mean? And I guess I'm kind of insinuating let's just write the obit before the person's actually died. But, like, let's not talk about, well, if they go on they're not going on a run. Who was that yesterday? Was that Chris Haynes? This is the audio that I'm talking about. This analysis doesn't make any sense to me.
You can go from coaching staff, from front office to the players. Like, it can be a pretty big, significant wholesale if the Milwaukee Bucks don't make a significant run this postseason.
They're not making a significant run. So just skip that part and say, yeah, there's going to be wholesale changes. And by the way, there should be. This team stinks. Look at them. Like, there's Giannis, and Dame's a nice player. I wish he didn't miss time with a blood clot, and we were maybe getting a little bit more of an accurate, version of Dame. But all right, it's better that he's out there than not at all, I guess. There should be wholesale changes. The analysis around Giannis and the Bucks, it's just odd. I saw Cowherd saying the Bucks should trade him today. The Bucks should absolutely not do that unless they have no choice. But again, the Giannis discourse is just poor. And this isn't even me being defensive. He's never going to leave. Don't say he's going to leave. He might. But everyone's talking about it like a bunch of bozos. All right, we'll pick this up tomorrow. Heavy draft analysis, and I will give you my final pick. Maybe you'll have final picks as well. Talk to you tomorrow at 4.